Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for our special webinar for Cabinet Vision's exciting new release, the Paperless Traveller. My name is Jonah Crivello, and I'm an account executive with Hexagon Nexus Connected Worker. And I'm thrilled to guide you through how this innovative digital workflow can transform your cabinet shop operations. We'll start with a quick overview of the challenges Paperless Traveller addresses, and then dive into a live demonstration and also a quick video. Finally, we'll open the floor for all of your questions. And on this webinar, we have myself and product managers Chip and Beth Durham. We all know that paper-based processes can slow us down. Lost documents, manual errors, and wasted time are all too common in our industry. As projects become more complex and customer expectations rise, the need for efficiency and accuracy has never been greater. And that's where Paperless Traveller comes in. Today, we'll show you how this digital solution eliminates paper from your workflow, streamlines communications, and ensures that your team always has the most up-to-date information right at their fingertips. Now we'll go ahead and watch a quick video highlighting the Paperless Traveller.
Tired of trying to figure out which part goes to which cabinet when the CNC cuts something wrong? Well, have no fear, because Cabinet Vision just released a new product called the Cabinet Vision Paperless Traveller. This new touchscreen application is available on iPhones, Androids, and just through the web browser. It gives you the ability to access each and every one of the reports that you create within Cabinet Vision digitally. You can even scan a QR code available on the label that allows you to retrace your steps to find all of the original information for that part in that cabinet that assembly. In addition to that, you'll have the ability to report any defects or recuts that need to be made from the shop floor and have it seen directly in the office. For just $100 a month, up to 5 users will be able to have access to any report you deem necessary. Once purchased, we'll help you add a unique CV token link to your S2M center. That link allows you to wirelessly send information to the app, and you can begin setting up various work centers that you hope to use. From nesting to assemblies, all the way to a last-minute checklist before the job goes out the door. The Paperless Traveller is part of the Nexus Connected Worker platform. It delivers digital work instructions, defect tracking, work center management, and real-time visibility right at the work center. Once your team is onboarded, you'll access the system through the Nexus Connected Worker app, available on both iOS app stores and the Google Play Store. The app also works on desktops. Users receive a login profile and a default password, and on first login, they'll be prompted to reset that password. Depending on your
Great. Now we will go ahead and pass it over to Chip.
Thanks, Jonah. I'm Chip Martin, Market and Product Manager for Woodstone and Composites. So I'm going to go through the Cabinet Vision side of setting up for Cabinet Vision Paperless Traveller, and then I'll hand it over to Beth Durham, who will cover the Paperless Traveller side. So on the Cabinet Vision side of things, it's pretty simple. So I'm just going to open up a job here real quick. All the setup is done inside the S2M Center, so I'm going to travel over to the S2M Center with this job. And then we're going to go into S2M Center Preferences, and there is a Paperless Traveller tab. Here's where you'll enter your customer ID and your Paperless Traveller token, which you'll get during the setup process. But the most important work is going to be on the work centers themselves. Bring that to this screen. So here's where you set up your work centers, and this is basically the people in your shop that need the reports or areas of the shop that you need to track progress on. So we'll start here with nesting. Everything starts with nesting. And when I say nesting, keep in mind this will work just as well for saw optimization. So when I say nesting, if you're in a cell-based manufacturing environment, you can use optimization as well. So here's where I'll select the report that I want to use for my nesting machine. So we'll go through here and let's get the nest cut list legacy. And then I've set up a few other work centers. I've got my edge bander, which I don't actually do a report for because they can get their edge banding instructions directly from the label, so I don't tie a report to it. I got my drawers department, so I've got a drawer checklist for that. For the doors department, I have a door cut list. For assembly, I handle it a little differently. I don't use an actual report from the report center. I use an assembly sheet. So down here, I can say for the work center assembly, and then select any assembly sheets that I have saved. If I've created a custom assembly sheet or whatever, I can assign it to that work center. And then to wrap it up, I do cabinet lists for my finalized wrap and staging departments, my shipping department, and then out at the job site, they also use the cabinet list. So here's where you set all that up. Really important that you set your work centers up to match the work centers that you set up on the cloud with the Paperless Traveller app. So typically, you'll start setting them up there and then come into S2M Center and set them up here. Now, I mentioned labels. We also mentioned QR codes a little bit earlier, so we'll talk about that just a little bit. So if I go into label setup, and I'm just going to pick one of my label designs that I've got set up here. So I have in my 4x3, I've set up this QR code. It's pretty simple. All I'm going to do here is I'd select the 2D barcode data matrix. I'm going to put in my sample text, and this is an important part. And this setup is, all this setup information is available on the Nexus community. But I'm going to do work order underscore part ID, and that's just very important. That is how Cabinet Vision Paperless Traveller knows which part and which assembly you're picking, so it knows which report to show the guys out in the shop. So I set that QR code up, and that's really it for setup. So at this point, I'll just optimize my job. And when I go to NC code and labels, you'll see that there's a CV Paperless Traveller area. And I'm going to make sure that's turned on. I don't want this manual here. And I've got it turned on. I've got my output from my machine just like normal and my output to the label application. And I'll run this. So the first thing it's going to do is run through the normal NC code generation. I'll put all my patterns out to my nested base router. And then once I'm finished with that process, it begins the process of creating all the PDFs of my reports that are necessary for the Paperless Traveller app. So you'll see it go through and printing each of my reports. So it's generating those PDFs and it's compiling them all together so it can upload those to the cloud. See, now it's telling me it's uploading the data to the cloud. And I've had a successful upload. At this point, it's all out in the shop, so I'll hand it over to Beth so she can show you the rest of the application.
Thank you, Chip.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just go ahead and show my iPad. I'm Beth Durham. I am the product manager for Nexus Connected Worker, and I will be demoing the application on my iPad. And as mentioned before in the demo video, Nexus Connected Worker is an app that's usable both on Android and iOS devices, and it would just be downloaded from the appropriate app store. And once it's on your actual device, you would go ahead and launch it. So every user has a unique login and password. And once logged in, they would have access to the Cabinet Vision Paperless Traveller. In launching it, depending on the user authorizations, whether they're an organization administrator, a manager, or an operator, they would have access to the different workflows that are shown here. So operators would have access to the nesting operations and production operations workflows. Managers would have access to the operation workflows as well as reports, and then administrators would have access to the entire suite. As an organization administrator, and that's at the customer, so it's a super user at the customer, they would go ahead and go into the administration workflow, and I'm just going to tap that here. And one of the very first things that the administrator needs to do is to manage the work centers. It is very important that this is done before sending any jobs from Cabinet Vision to Paperless Traveller. And I'm going to demonstrate how to set up work centers. So if you notice here, the list of work centers, they actually match the Cabinet Vision Work Center Manager that Chip showed. So you have your assembly, doors, drawers, edge band, etc., and then the work center number. This is an important feature because this tells the system which PDF files and reports are shown at each work center during the operations phase. So one of the features in this part of the work center management piece is to be able to add a work center. And to do that, let's say you have a new work center, and it doesn't have to be a physical machine. It can also be a work area. So if you notice, we have shipping, job site. Those are actual work areas, so they don't have to be a physical actual machine. But in doing add work center, you would go ahead and add the work center number, and this needs to match what's in Cabinet Vision. And from here, you can make it active or inactive. So I'm going to go ahead and make it active. I'm going to go ahead and say done, push continue. And now you see that it's listed in the work center list. So one of the things that can happen is you can also, maybe you made an error in the naming or in the work center number. So to edit it, all you'd need to do is press down on that actual work center line. And now you see an edit work center or delete work center. So to edit, I would just go ahead and edit. And let's say I mistyped my number. I can go ahead and change that and say continue, and it'll make the update. The other thing that can be done is, let's say you do have a physical machine or work area that you need to have maintenance done, or it needs to be reorganized. And so you want the work center to be there, but you want it to be not visible to the operations floor or production floor. So in doing that, you can again press on the actual work center in question, and you can edit and make it inactive by toggling it off. Go ahead and continue. And now you notice there's two actual menu buttons at the very bottom part of the screen. If you notice, active work center is turned blue, and then next to it is inactive work center, which is gray. So if I go ahead and select that, you can see the list of inactive work centers. Now, why would you have inactive work centers? So one is what I said before, was maybe it's being maintained or reorganized, or perhaps you also have new machines coming in and you just want to plan those in into your production area, but you don't want to have them available yet to the shop floor. So this can be used for planning as well as maintenance. And again, the add work center feature works just the same. So let's say I've decided to deactivate this work center. It's too old and I'm no longer going to use it on shop floor. We can also then delete the work center by selecting it and holding it down, and then you can select delete work center and that disappears. That same feature also works in the active work center as well, just by highlighting and deleting work center. Once the work centers are set up, now the jobs from Cabinet Vision as Chip demoed can be sent to Paperless Traveller. The other features with administration are the following. So one is manage work orders. So if I have a list of work orders and as an administrator, I recognize that I forgot to do something or add something to a work order and I don't want it visible to the shop floor, I can go ahead and highlight it. And just like the work centers, I can just delete it out of the list. The other thing I can do is, let's say multiple work orders are sent to the shop floor, but they all have the same naming, and I want to differentiate them from one to the other. So I can go ahead and edit the work order and give it a different name. So we're not actually going to use that one to actually do the demo. So I'll just go ahead and demo the delete work order. So I can go ahead and delete work order, and then that goes away. The other feature within administration is managing part header information. So in selecting this, you notice that all the items are toggled on. So if you're a shop that doesn't utilize some of these namings, then you can go ahead and turn them off, and that information will not be shown in the work order. The other really neat feature that we have is we recognize that your work orders are processed and you don't necessarily need to keep that information for a long period of time. So the administrator also has the ability to delete archived data, and you just select that workflow. And now in deleting it, it will delete any data or work orders that are 90 days or older. You can also cancel out of this. All right, so let's get to the nesting operations and production operations workflows that will be utilized by your operators on the shop floor. So if I'm a nesting operator, I would go ahead and launch the nesting operation workflow. And from here, I will see the work orders that were sent by the shop manager to the shop floor of the work orders that I need to complete. So all of the screens pretty much have a search function. So if you notice down below, you have a search work order and view all. So we have that search feature so that if you have multiple work orders and you really want to just drill down to a specific work order, you can do that. And you don't need to type in the entire work order. You can just do a partial. And then if I do view all, it will repopulate that list. If you notice the little home icon at the very top, the little house there, if I press that, it's actually going to take me back to the launchers. So going into nesting work order, I'm going to select Doe Residence. From here, you'll see the list of related work order materials as well as the nests. To help streamline that filtering, we've also added the function of being able to select a specific material, and then the nest list will update based on that material selection. That way, if you want to run all that type of material at once, you can do that. And again, if I keep selecting the individual ones, you'll notice that the nests update. Again, you have the search feature both on the material side as well as the nesting side. To repopulate all the nests again, I would just say clear selection, and now you'll see all the nests related to that work order. So in selecting a nest, I can select it or I can search for it. So if I want to see just the 101, again, you can do a parcel search and it'll minimize that list. And then again, if I select view all, you will see everything back. All right, so now, if I select an actual nest from the list, you'll notice the information about that nest. So you have the work order date in which it was released, the customer information, and some additional information about material and job and stock size. If you notice now at the bottom of the screen, you notice 3 separate buttons: Instruction, Report Defects, and Complete Nest. So this is where Cabinet Vision has sent those PDF reports to the system, and now I can select instruction and be able to see the PDF file related to that nest. We're going to use the native functionality of the device to be able to zoom in and out. And just like on your iPhone, when you're able to send pictures or send an email or a cute snapshot, you can use the export function up here to be able to message it to someone, mail it to someone, and if you're set up with Teams or Outlook, you can also send it there, and also the Microsoft OneDrive if your organization is also using the Microsoft Suite. So once I am done, I can go ahead and say done. And let's say I recognize that I actually have a defect on this nest. So to report a defect, I would simply select Report Defects. And then this is kind of like a glorified Post-it note. So instead of having a pencil and paper to write it down, you can just go ahead and type it in on your device. Again, if your device has the microphone feature, which most of them have, you can also use VoiceOver to be able to enter the information. So let's say I'll do a partial entry. So parts 2 and 4. And now I want to use the microphone feature. Material defective. Go ahead and press done and then save defect. Now, if you took a look at it and you realize, oh, wait a minute, number 4 isn't actually defective, or I don't want to report a defect, you can just go ahead and cancel out. But let's say number 2 and 4 are actually defective. So I'm going to go ahead and save defect. And what that will do is log that defect and update the recut list for the reports, if you notice in the initial launcher. So now I can go ahead and select a next nest. I'm going to go ahead and select it. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the instructions again. I'm going to go ahead and complete it and then go back to the list. So one thing we have done is we've also color-coded whether a nest has a defect logged against it or not. So if you notice, one is yellow, one is green, and we've also placed them at the end of the list so that you don't have to scroll through the completed nests. So we recognize that you don't necessarily want to select every single nest and process it that way and through the application. And so you don't have to. So let's say you're running the rest of the nests and everything is run fine and you don't have any more defects to log. If that's the case, you can go ahead and complete nesting work order, and it'll close out the entire work order and highlight the remaining nests green. The other scenario might be that the shop manager comes running down to you and says, hey, we have a job that needs to be shipped right away. You need to pause this work order and work on this other one. I've got the recuts made and we need to run this nest. So in doing that, I can go ahead and pause select work order and go ahead and select another work order to complete. After running that particular nest, I can also then, or set of nests or work orders, I can go ahead and complete that nesting work order, and I just select complete nest work order. And it's going to ask a verification question. We want to make sure that you are sure that you want to complete that nesting work order and you didn't get here by mistake. So from here, again, you see 3 additional buttons below. You have yes, complete. That means I am going to complete this work order. You have no, actually I looked around, it looks like I need another, I have to run another nest. And in selecting that, it will take you back to the nest list. Or I can go ahead and pause from here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and complete this. I've ran my emergency or my hot job, and I'm going to go ahead and complete that out. And as I mentioned before, if they haven't been selected manually, they'll actually just go ahead and highlight green, indicating that they were produced with no defects. Okay. So now let's go to production operations. So the nesting operations is completed, and now I'm a production operator. I'm going to go ahead and launch production operations. And now you see that list of work centers that the administrator actually put in by adding the different lists and also having them match up with Cabinet Vision. So now they're listed here. Today I'm going to work in assembly. Again, if you notice below, you have the search function as well. So you can search a work center. So if you're a big organization and you don't want to wade through all the work centers, you can go ahead and search the one that you're active at. Again, and then to view everything, you'll see view all. So I'm going to be working in the assembly work center today. So I'll go ahead and select it. And from here, we use the camera feature of the device, of your smartphone, of your tablet, to be able to scan the labels that Chip actually demoed earlier. So I'm going to demo that now. It opens up the camera feature. We're able to go ahead and scan that QR code, and it takes you right to that part information that was on that QR code. So in this case, it's the horizontal divider. And now you notice the information up top, and then you see multiple buttons on options below. So you can look at the instructions that was sent from Cabinet Vision. And I can zoom in and out. Again, I can send this as a message. I can also use the markup feature of the device to mark things up. I can report a defect. Part dropped. I can edit. And then I can save and continue. And again, that defect gets logged into the production recuts. So from here, I can scan another part using the QR code in the camera. But let's say that QR code is damaged, or for some reason that part doesn't have a QR code. If that's the case, I can go ahead and complete and select next part. What that does is takes me to the assembly information, and I see the assembly information up top. From here, I can also see the instructions, and I can select another part. So there's that part that I just logged a defect against. And again, I can select one. I can go ahead and look at the instructions, go ahead and say done. Let's say I completed it, there was no defects to log, and that same color-coded logic is there and places it at the end of the list. Now again, we don't expect you to have to select every single part if you don't need to. So if you're running everything else is green, and this assembly is complete, you can go ahead and complete assembly. And it'll highlight the additional parts that were not selected green. From here, I can decide to scan another part using the camera function, or I can go ahead and select the next assembly button at the very top there. And that's what I'm going to do, is just to show you this logic. And then now you notice that that assembly had a defect logged against it and it turned yellow. Similarly, I can go ahead and select an assembly, complete the assembly, and then select the next assembly. And you got your color coding and the logic to put it below. So I want to show you, let's go ahead and pause this. So let's say you actually don't have a QR code or you're not using labels. It will just take you directly to the assembly list after you select the work order. So you don't have to have labels to have the application work. Same kind of logic here. Let's say I run all my other assemblies and everything worked out great. There's no additional defects to log. So again, we have this logic where you can actually complete the entire work order, or you can say, no, I need to select another assembly and look at that part and make sure I ran it or assembled it. And I can also pause this work order and select a different work order if there's a hot job coming down and deliveries need to be met right away. I'm going to go ahead and say pause this work order. And now I'm going to switch to a manager or an administrator role. So remember, they both get reports. So as a shop manager or someone, a supervisor, team lead, and you want to take a look at the status of the different work orders, you can go ahead and go into reports. And now you see 4 different reports that the application provides. So we have 2 reports related to nests and 2 reports related to production. So remember all those defects, but not really that many. There was only 3, I think. You can see now in nesting recuts and production recuts, the actual defects that were logged from that operator in real time. So as soon as they log it, these reports actually update in real time. So that increases that efficiency that Jonah was talking about earlier in his introduction. No longer losing pieces of paper, no longer having to run around your shop floor looking for parts that are damaged or paperwork. Now you have it at your fingertips, or just at your desk, because you can just pull it up in the desktop application, be able to take a look at the reports. And now you see these are the different defects that were logged. I can go ahead and submit these and have them sent to get re-nested. And one of the things that we've done here is that, you know, shop managers and just in general, people are busy. So maybe I won't remember that I actually sent it. So we have this submit button on the right-hand side. So let's say I went ahead and submitted all the urgent care recuts. So in submitting it, I'm just going to select it. And that's just a reminder to let me know, hey, those are the ones I've sent. If you notice at the bottom, you see 2 menu selections. One's not submitted and one submitted. So if I select submitted, now I'll see all the nesting recuts that I submitted and when. So one of the things that you can do here is you can export this out into an Excel sheet or a PDF file. So in doing that, you would select menu and you would select export. And then you can go ahead and export that out. And now you see a nesting recuts report in a nice PDF format. And if you want to send this to the engineering group, or if they're waiting at the job site, hey, I know we just sent these, I just sent these out to let them know, hey, these are getting work done. So again, same features in terms of the device. You can send it as a message, mail, Teams, etc. Okay. The other thing we have, and so we have that similar functionality in production recuts as well. So those are the production recuts that I just created, that horizontal divider there. And again, I can go ahead and submit that same logic and same functions in terms of exporting and sending it to an individual. All right, the other two reports we have are status reports. So for nesting status reports, what we have here are all the statuses of the nest that's out on the shop floor. So this can be an extensive list. So one of the things you can do is go ahead and filter that out. I'm going to go ahead and search nests. And again, it doesn't need to be the full name. It can just be partial. Go ahead and continue. And now we only have the report for the urgent care work order. You also see the nest names and the status of that. So remember, I completed this work order, so they're actually all completed. And I also see a list of the ones that actually had a defect related to it. So now I know maybe those are the two nests that I need to take a look at in my CV program. Again, this can be exported out and through a PDF or Excel file, and again, it can be sent to an individual. For production status reports, very similar, but with additional information. So again, the filter criteria. So we can search, and let's just say dough, I think was the name. Go ahead and continue, and now it'll minimize that list to only show the dough status. So I can see which work centers that it's released at and where it is at that work center. So it's pending at edge band, drawers, etc., and it's in progress in assembly. You also notice the release to production date. So that's the date that Paperless Traveller received the job from Cabinet Vision. And then you also notice labor hours. So we provide labor hours based on the time available, based on the time that that work order is being worked on at a specific work center. And if you notice also, you see which work centers have a defect, or I'm sorry, not work centers, work orders has a defect related to it in which work center. And again, same features in terms of exporting out and also being able to send it using the capabilities of the actual device. So I think I covered everything. Yep. So I am going to hand it off over to Jonah.
Thanks, Beth, and thanks, Chip, for walking us through the solution from start to finish. Yeah, so now if you're wondering how do we bring this solution to our own shop, the good news is that the Paperless Traveller is now available as part of Cabinet Vision 2025.1. If you're already a Cabinet Vision user, we can help you get up and running very quickly. And if you'd like more of a tailored conversation about your setup, we'd be happy to schedule a follow-up call with you as well. But as a next step to kind of finish this webinar, I want to open the floor to questions. So, you know, if you haven't had time already, feel free to drop your question in the Q&A panel. We'll answer as many as we can live, and we'll also follow up after the session if we run out of time. Just check here on the question board. Looks like right now we have no questions, but you will be getting a contact information after this, and you know, we'd be happy to answer any questions or you know, specific. Oh, we do have a question pop up.
Yep, we got one that came in. Can the data on reworks and part of the status sync to a database somewhere?
You can export that data to an Excel spreadsheet, so you would be able to bring it into a database. I mean, it would be customization on your part in order to do that, but the system itself doesn't record that data in a database anywhere.
All right, we have another one. Do you have someone that comes to my shop and set up this program?
No, I mean that would be highly unusual. I mean, I guess of course, the sales consultant could help you set it up. It's pretty easy to set up. That would be an option that you would have to talk to your sales consultant about.
Or labor.
There isn't a ton of setup on it. Basically, all you need to do is download it from the App Store, and then the administrator would set up the work centers, and from there you would be able to send the work orders to the shop floor. Now, part of the thing that we didn't really talk about during this webinar so far is the onboarding process. And I don't know, Jonah, if you want to talk about that a little bit and what the outcome of that onboarding process is for the customers.
Yeah, so for the onboarding process, it's fairly simple, and we can get you up and running in a matter of an hour or so, depending on how many users you would like to add. But really, what would happen is once you've discussed with your salesperson, we would receive an order, and we'd get you started and send over a link for you to register all your users and their roles. And then from there on the back end, we would get you onboarded and then send off a getting started email to you, which would have all of the steps laid out so that you can get up and running on your shop floor, adding work centers, and also links to videos as well. That's really helpful to get started. So it's a fairly easy process.
All right, we got two more. Are labor hours logged by how long that work order is available to the station, or by how long the station marks they're working on it?
It's the availability in terms of when it's open at that work center.
All right, and then our last one is, what is the price to add this to their Cabinet Vision subscription?
Yeah, so the price for as little as 5 users is $100 a month, and beyond that, it's $25 for additional users. So you can start that conversation with your Cabinet Vision seller, and if there's any other information on pricing you'd like, we'll be happy to answer that for you. And there also is, there also is a $250 setup cost to get started.
Yep, so there's a one-time $250 setup fee, and then there's $100 for 5 users, so $1,200 ARR or annual fee. But if you sign up for 3 years, then you do get a 25% discount. So it'd be $75 per month for 5 users for a 3-year contract.
I actually have a couple more that came through.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of interest here. So will the noted defective parts get auto-generated to a recut sheet?
No. The way it's designed to function currently is you'll be able to submit your recut parts, export those to an Excel spreadsheet or a PDF, and send them to the engineering department. So they'll know which work order and which parts. They'll go into S2M Center, filter those parts from that work order, and then send them back out to the shop. So that process is generally manual, other than the compiled list, the recut list that the shop supervisor can create and send to engineering in order for them to process the proper parts.
All right. Do you have specifications or hardware requirements for the type of tablet or desktop needed to run the app?
Yes, so it is the newer version of iPad. So I believe it's Gen 10 iPad, but you don't have to have an iPad Pro. It can just be the iPad. I think they run, I don't know, around $300 now.
And you can use an Android tablet as well. And the other option is It can run as a web app. So you could be given a URL, so you could really use any device that you wanted that had access to the internet. You could actually use it as a web app and access it that way too. So you could use even a lower quality or a Android or iPad in case you're worried about damage out in the shop. So as long as it has a browser functionality in it, you could get to it that way as well. So
that's absolutely right. And so, yeah, one of the things that is really cool is on the smartphones, you're able to, once you get to the actual desktop app or URL, let's say you're using Google Chrome or Safari or Firefox or something like that, and you put in the desktop application, you can actually use a function to pin it to your actual screen. So it'll actually show up as an icon, even though it's opening up the actual URL desktop version. So that really, you know, allows it so that you can use older devices, as Chip was saying.
All right. Is there any requirements on how the work centers need to be numbered, such as certain numbers, digits, numbers allowed?
no, the only fixed work center is going to be the primary machine work center, which is going to be your nesting or optimization machine. That's work center 0, and that's set up by default. You don't even set that work center up. As for the other work centers, no, there are no requirements. The numbers are just numbers. It can be a 1-digit, 10-digit. Doesn't really matter. And obviously, naming the work center, you can name it whatever you want.
It is important that whatever naming you have in that number field in Cabinet Vision Paperless Traveller also matches the one in Cabinet Vision. So if you have spaces there, or if you have, you know, lowercase or uppercase, then it needs to match in both systems.
Can you adjust the order of the work orders to prioritize jobs for the shop, or are they just in the order received?
Currently, right now, they're order received. And I think that's why we put in that search feature, is to be able to really drill down on the work order that needs to be completed.
Is there any lag that may happen if there are multiple work orders in a work center?
Say it again.
Is there any lag that may happen if there are multiple work orders in a work center?
There shouldn't be. My only hesitation is that if you're working on the same work center and both users are trying to access the same data at the same time, meaning, you know, they're both selecting the same work order, same assembly number, same part, you know, then the system doesn't exactly know who's working on what, potentially. But I don't think that would probably the normal case.
All right, we still got a couple minutes and they're still coming in. So here's another one. Can users have access to multiple roles? Say 2 employees who have split roles can have an iPad with the same access.
I'm not sure. Can they have multiple roles? Like, can they be an operator and a manager, or is it that can they be on 2 separate devices? My understanding.
Or maybe you're talking about, you know, work centers, because you can log into any work center. You can have the same employee if you're just trying to log work center times. So he could log into the edge bander, run his edge banding, complete the work order in the edge bander, step over to assembly and start assembling, and he goes to the assembly work center. So the user is not tied to the work centers. Users can work on any work centers. It's completely user work center agnostic, if that was the question.
All right, it looks like there's several people asking about the recording of this. So yes, the webinar was recorded and will be sent out to you after.
And I would say if the participants are part of the Cabinet Vision community, that would also be a good location to look at our the videos there, and it really runs you through step by step to the point of downloading the application and then actually showing the things that I actually demoed today.
Awesome. Yep, I would say that's majority of them. Anything that we didn't get to, we will definitely address with you offline, and then I'll hand it back over to Jonah.
All right, great. Thank you everyone for your time and your engagement in joining us for this webinar. We're really excited for the future of working with you, and any questions that you might have down the line or even after the webinar as you think about it more, please feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to answer them. But other than that, thank you again for your time and attention, and wishing you continued success and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.